19, maybe 18. How many people have been to one of our events? Well, quite a few. So I want to kind of get a feel for what you guys want to know, whether you want to know the history of how our events came around or what we're doing now, or um, so how many people want to hear about how the whole thing got started? Okay. All right, we'll start there. That looked like more than half. So in 2014, well, in 2011, there was the sunstar wasting disease. Everybody knows about that. So sunstars were considered the main predator up in the north coast of the purple urchin. In 2013 and 14, there was a warm water event starting. And in Sonoma in 2013, the Department of Fish and Game noticed that there was an extreme explosion of purple urchin population in Sonoma County. They assumed that something happened offshore and that it washed ashore because it was the entire Sonoma coast. It wasn't a local event. It was the whole Sonoma coast. And then in 2014, the same thing happened in Mendocino. And at that time, I was on the Director of Fish and Game's Recreational Abalone Advisory Committee. And one of the department biologists came to the committee with a presentation that she called the perfect storm. And she was discussing how, with the death of the sea stars and the warm water events and the explosion in urchin population, that it was kind of a confluence of events that could be really bad. Everybody knows that in warm water, the kelp recedes. We'd had at that time 2 or 3 years of warm water, and we ended up having 4 or 5 more years of warm water. So the kelp receded exceptionally far back. Usually we would lose, 20, 30% of the kelp forest, and then the cold water comes back, and then the kelp comes back, and everything's fine. But with 8 or 9 years of warm water, the kelp receded to a point where it was almost non-existent. And after she gave the presentation in 2014, I started petitioning the department to raise the limit on purple urchin. And my idea was that as soon as you raise the limit of take on something, people want to know why, especially in California. Right, as soon as we said we want to raise the recreational take limit on purple urchin, people would have asked questions. People would have started studying things. I think what the department thought I meant was that recreational divers would have made a difference or turned the tide on the thing, and and they disagreed, and I disagree. That's not what I meant. So it took me about 4 years. In 2018, I convinced the department, after 5 or 6 years of warm water and kelp receding and urchins exploding, and in 2018, I convinced the department to raise the recreational limit on purple urchin north of San Francisco to 20 gallons so that we could hold the recreational removal events that some of you guys came to pre-COVID. We had a deal with Fish and Game that we wouldn't crush them in the water, that we would organize removal events, and they were supposed to be looking for funding to pay commercial divers, because commercial divers can remove far more urchin than we can. Commercial urchin divers can remove a lot more urchin, be a lot more effective at clearing an area, keeping an area clear. So I did that in 2018. We started organizing the events. In 2019, they raised the limit to 40 gallons from 20. And after 2 years, the department still hadn't even started looking for money. So and some of you guys were at the events, and actually one guy made a comment about how hard it was for a diver to go down and fill a bag with 20 pounds of urchin and bring it to the surface. There were guys that had 4 or 5 bags and didn't realize that when they got to the surface, their BC was not going to keep. So guys were like kicking to try to stay up with all these bags. And so in 2020, I said, I'm crushing. Actually, at the end of 2019, I said, I'm crushing them in the water. And we had the first crushing event at Van Dam. The department said, you can't. I said, you can't stop me. And we did it. And so in 2020, they made it legal for us. So what they actually did was they removed the recreational limit of purple urchin in Casper Cove, so there's no danger of somebody going over limit, right? And so the project in Monterey that some of you dove at, right? So that project was the same regulation. They removed the recreational limit on purple urchin and then made it part of a scientific collection permit, where Reef Check was doing the surveying, and they were doing pre and post surveys and monitoring, making sure that it was part of a scientific program. The reason our program got extended, so the program was supposed to expire in 2022, but what happened was in Mendocino we weren't allowed to dive. In Monterey, they dove all that time, 2020, 2021, and 2022. They were diving. In Monterey, or in Mendocino, we couldn't dive. There were signs on the highway on 20 that said, "If you don't live here, don't come here, go home." People were being. A friend of mine owned a house in Casper, but his primary residence was in Colusa, and the police told him he had to go home to Colusa because that's not his primary residence, and he owned the house. So that's how scared they were in Mendocino. COVID, yeah. So in 2023, 24, 2024, they extended our project for 5 years. So we're going now till April 1st of 2029. So we got the extension. Reef Check's doing the monitoring. Nature Conservancy is doing some of the monitoring and some of the surveying. And the data is really, really good. The data, so there's differences. If you dove Monterey and you dove Mendocino, there's differences in the program. When you dive a spot in Monterey, what I understand is if you come back a week or two later and nobody's been doing anything, that spot is repopulated. Is that what you experienced? So in Mendocino, you clear a rock and you come back a month later and that rock is still clear. So it's very interesting to us, and that's part of what we're studying is why does that happen in Mendocino and not in Monterey? Maybe it's because the water's colder. Maybe it's because the urchin have less food in them or less nourishment. Maybe they're not as anxious to explore and look for other food. I don't know. Those are things we want to know. Um, so all of the goals that we set out with our project were achieved. Our project with recreational divers, what it started out to do was to force the state to take up the funding of the commercial divers. I don't know if you know, so Watermen's Alliance raised $160,000 in 2018, and we paid commercial divers to dive any diveable day. We had 9 boats working any diveable day in 2018 and 2019 to remove the purple urchin, and in 2020, the state took it over. And now the feds are putting money towards kelp restoration. So all the projects you hear about now about kelp restoration are because of our project. Our project spurred them to do something about it. So not so much that our project is making a difference in that tiny little area in the ocean, but all those other projects are happening because of what we are doing, the recreational dive community, right? So it's a challenge to get people up there. It seems like people come up and dive for a year or two and then they kind of do something else. We have an off season. And I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of us are like A-type personalities. We get into something and we go full bore, and that's all we're doing, right? So in the off season, a lot of times guys pick something up and start doing something else. And next season, not everybody comes back, so the crowd kind of rotates. So I'm happy to be here speaking to Aquatutus again. Your club has actually been very well represented at our events the entire time. I don't really see a lot of the people that I saw back then. There was a lady. She had a really strange name. Not strange, but no, no, like a Bibbit or something or a Babbitt, huh? Maybe. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah. Okay. Maybe. So Blue Harmony came along about 2 years ago and asked to get involved, and so their cha-cha is promotion. They want to talk more about how do we reach more people. So with that, I'm going to let Pete talk about how we're trying to reach more people now and what we're doing now.
Appreciate it. Let me just set up my slides. That's not it. There it is, I think. There it is. Yeah. Can you see that? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Give me 2 seconds. I'll go back.
Zoom can see it, so you can go ahead.
Okay.
Slideshow.
Okay. Just give me 2 seconds to figure this out. It's not showing the original. Let me reset this. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, there we are. Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Pete Russo. I'm really happy to be here talking to all of you. This is my first time talking to a dive club, so here we go. What's happening? I live in Berkeley, and this is Casper Cove. When I started diving up in that area, I started diving in 2006. And I started diving with my wife's family. You see a picture of Hillard here. This is my father-in-law, and he's been diving for generations. His family is from California area, San Francisco, and he tells stories about going diving with his grandfather and his father. And back then there was no abalone limit at all. And eventually you saw that it kind of whittled down to when we finished on 3. And what happened was that we would be diving, and here's my wife with a bunch of abalone, and then the whole family would go diving by Casper Cove. We also went to Albion. If you've ever been to Albion, there was a great abalone diving there. And when we first started diving, there's just so much great kelp. And these are some pictures I've gotten with working with the Nature Conservancy, and as well as Reef Check and some of the other crew of Cal Humboldt. But then these sea urchins started coming in, and we started noticing the big shift in like 2016, 2017. The abalone, did you remember this? The abalone started getting smaller inside it. The shell was still big, right? And then eventually the sea urchins started taking over all the spaces. I love this picture showing the abalone with the sea urchin on top of it. So this is one of I teach yoga. My other career is teaching yoga, believe it or not. I figure, I'm living in the Bay Area. I'm eventually going to become a DJ and a life coach, and I'll hit the trifecta. But one of my quotes I think about quite a bit is, if you see something that should be done and you think somebody should do something, just remember you're a somebody. And I reflect on that when I was when we started noticing something going wrong. We kind of stopped. Mendocino was our family vacation, family tradition, going there every year. Maybe some of you have that similar tradition, going someplace. And I didn't know what was going on at all. And then in about 2021, 2022, Hillard, my father-in-law's business partner from Japan, reached out to him, and he said, "Hey, there's ocean's in trouble. We need to help." And he pretty much said, and Hillard reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to help me start a nonprofit to kind of start taking care of things?" And the first thing we thought about was Mendocino and the abalone, because that was close to our heart. So I put this in here because I'm not sure if you need any other hobbies on your spare time. But I like kind of, because what happened was, when you first started looking at what's going on with the ocean, and you start reading about it, because we didn't know that much about it. We've heard about the plastic pollution, we heard about climate change impacting, but when you start taking a deep dive into it, there's like almost like, holy shit, we are effed, right moment. And then you start reading about all these amazing people that are actually doing the work to help support the ocean health, right? There's all these amazing people. It reminds me of Fred Rogers. Anybody, Mr. Rogers? I share lots of quotes, by the way. Pardon me as I share this. But Mr. Rogers has this beautiful quote. When he was a kid, he would hear about a fire going on, and his mother would say to him, "Look for the helpers. Look for the helpers." Right. So we all can be part of this helping moment, right? And this is kind of this moment where we're going, how do we want to make an impact? And so we came up with this name called Blue Harmony, and we filed for a 501c3. And it's founded by myself, my father-in-law, and Tom Hench, who is my father-in-law's best friend. And we're just working to kind of create some change in ocean health, pretty much. And our main focus is to help educate people, because people don't know what's going on in the ocean, or maybe they do, maybe they kind of is on the periphery, but kind of bring it front and center. So our pillars are educate, inspire, and empower is kind of what we're going for. And that's why we reached out to Josh, because we started doing this research to see who was involved with what's going on in Casper Cove. And Josh was one of the people that stood out because he'd been involved with this project for so long. It involved diving, which is kind of part of what I was excited about too, to be truthful. I was like, oh, cool, I get to get in the water and swim around. Even if it is, really cold, it's all good. So we reached out to Josh, and Josh had a Facebook group. And this little thing that he made up, there's Josh, one of the first times I met him. And I thought, well, we can get involved with this some way. And again, there's so many people doing all this work. We were trying to think of, okay, well, how can we support the work that's being done rather than recreating the wheel? And so we said, well, we can maybe start kind of elevate what Josh is doing and the people at Water Mines Alliance are doing. And we started putting together marketing materials. So this is a website that I helped create for them. We started putting together an Instagram page and started, putting pictures up there and promoting the event. I put together a newsletter that sends out once a month, and just I want to show you this. These posters and these postcards are back there on that table. And so if you have a place you want to post them and take a postcard and share it with your friends, we'd love that. We'd love to have you sign up for our newsletter as well. And from the work that we're doing, we started getting people signing up for our newsletter. And so we started off with 0 and we ended up with about 244 within less than a month. And we have visions of kind of building this. Who's that? Is that Christine in the back there? She's in that picture right there. And so maybe some of you knew Eric. Eric passed away suddenly just a couple months ago. And so we're just to kind of honor him for a moment. But and so all these people are coming up to Casper Cove, and we're trying to get the word out there, doing the work. So it's showing promising results. Josh mentioned some of the work that we're doing is actually benefiting. And, this is a chart that shows where we're diving with looking at kelp canopy over the years. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thanks for pointing out my weakness on my website. I appreciate that. Shit. Okay. I might be up late tonight. Okay. So if you take a look over the years, it shows that it's bringing us a lot more kelps being shown. This is where we're diving over in this side. And, over here is the Cal Humboldt people and in this area. And then some of you might have met John. What's John's last name? Yeah, John Holcomb. He's a commercial diver. He's actually, you maybe seen a video of him with a vacuum, vacuuming the floor of the ocean. And then here's another data set that shows similar results of kind of what we're doing. Josh, did you want to say anything about this, or is that good? Yeah, right here. Yeah, right. So from very little there, and hopefully things are kind of moving in the right direction. So one of the things that Josh and I we try to meet, once or twice a month. We're trying to come up with other ways of doing community engagement to get more people involved. And so one of our ideas is this next year to increase active volunteers to 250 people coming in on a fairly regular basis, potentially increasing sea removal events because right now Water Mines Alliance is hosting one weekend a month pretty much. We're hoping to maybe increase that to 2 by getting a dive shop or a dive club involved. Aqua tutus. And then expand the reach to more people. So my dream is to actually keep building this project over the next 4 years now, where maybe every weekend during the dive season is taking place, is held a spot by dive shops. People are coming up on a regular basis to dive. You can dive there anytime you want. It's just nice to be there with a bunch of people. And yeah, so dive shops are well, I said shops. I found out you're a club actually when I walked in here. I thought you were a shop. Sorry about that. So you can reach out to CasperCoveProject.org, and I will repair the BlueHarmony.org website so that everyone else can sign up. Thanks for checking in, Sophie. I appreciate that. I also just want to kind of briefly mention, I don't want to go too much off the beaten path, but we're going to be supporting the something called the Blue Ocean Dome of the World Expo in Osaka, Japan. If you're in Osaka, come check out the Blue Ocean Dome. I mentioned we're partnered with a group in Japan, and they created this. They spent about $50 million creating this dome here to support. Its primary focus is to talk about ocean health. So we'll be in Dome C presenting things, and the theme is to revive the ocean. Here's Dome A. There's a huge video here at Dome B, and we'll be here in Dome C presenting information about the work we're doing. We're actually bringing out one of our focus is here's the picture of it too. Here's the waves chase quiz loop we're going to be creating to educate people about the ocean. And one of our other focuses, I don't want to do too much time on this because now we're focused mostly on focusing on kelp reforestation, but plastic pollution is a major problem that's going on in the ocean as well, as most of you probably know. And this is a little video graphic that shows there's pretty much 2 trucks a minute are dumping 2 trucks worth of plastic and litter is being dumped in the ocean every minute of every day. And there's, as you probably know, there's 5 gyres or 5 gyres that are going throughout the ocean, and they're collecting all of the plastic. And we're connected with a woman named Mary Crowell. I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, but she actually says it's pretty interesting the way that the currents work. That they get kind of separated by density, and so you'll go into one area of the gyre that she's been there, and there's like just all Tide bottles in one area, and then another area it's just wild to witness, she said. So that's as large as 2 Texases right now is the plastic, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is getting bigger as well.
That's the location right there you're showing in that map.
Correct, off the coast of it's between one of the reasons why we're involved with this because Japan and United States is in between Japan and United States. And then I created this chat GPT is pretty amazing. I don't know if you messed with this, but I created this today is showing plastic being into. So the idea is to stop all of the plastic going into there because you can't keep adding plastic into the ocean without turning off the tap. And so there's a couple of things.
Can you keep the microphone in front of your mouth, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Italian. The hands are being used. Thank you. So we have a 3-pronged approach to tackling plastic pollution in the ocean. One is supporting this woman named Mary Crowley, who is out of Sausalito, and she's with a group called the Ocean Voyage Institute, and she actually has chartered 14 trips out to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch to collect stuff. And we're hoping to partner with her to do more trips with her. She's planning on buying 3 to 5 more boats to do this work, and she's also trying to make it much more kind of sustainable without using diesel. I think they're working with sailing and sun power too as well. And then there's something called the SB 54 Extended Producer Responsibility Act. You all familiar with that at all? That was signed by Gavin Newsom in 2022, and this is actually really good news. Do you remember back in the 70s how there was a video of a guy, Native American, supposedly Native American, who's actually Italian, on a horse on the California highway, and he has a tear going down. He actually was on a canoe, and he got to his horse, and he's crying. That was actually a really key marketing campaign by the plastic industry to push the responsibility of recycling from them onto individuals and to the states and to the municipalities. So the Extended Producer Responsibility Act is pushing the responsibility back onto the producers of plastic. And so their hope is to actually reduce plastic pollution by 2035. It's really a long way away. So we're trying to kind of get people more involved with that and adopt those efforts more. This is one of my other favorite quotes. If everyone would sweep their front porch, the whole world would be clean. And there's just little things we can do every day. And that looks like my wife and I organize. We live in Berkeley, and our block is pretty stressed with some low-income housing. So people aren't responsible as much for the trash. So we about 4 times a year, we go out and pick up trash. So that's my call to action for you. Like whatever you can do, right? And help out. Okay. And then we're at blueharmony.org. Just don't log in until tomorrow until I fix it. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks. So Josh wants to come up and share some information. Thanks.
Yeah,
we did go.
yeah, absolutely. I just want to say that, so if you're wondering how you can get involved, so Watermen's Alliance, what we do is we host an event the last Saturday of every month, April through September, because that's when we can predict reasonably decent dive weather. But the regulation is in place all year, so you can go anytime you want to Casper Cove. The recreational limit is lifted. You can crush urchin in place, leave them there, so you don't have to haul them out anytime. I don't know if you have a look on your face. Okay, so so yeah, so you can do that anytime, but we just figure the big groups will be there when we have the compressor on the beach to refill your tanks. We do a potluck Saturday night at our trailer in the campgrounds that is pretty well attended. I do some tri-tips, so we do that the last Saturday of every month. We arrange for either a compressor to be there or someone to fill tanks. I don't know if you guys know that Subsurface was closed, right? So the owner, Blake, and his wife have now opened a shop in Mendocino called Ledges. And so it's more of a water sports thing than a dive shop, but they have an off-site compressor. So if you go up there on any other weekend, you can still get tanks filled. What their process is, though, is you drop them off and they take them and get them filled and they call you a day or two later when they're full. But you could, if you're going to go up there for the weekend, you could arrange to drop your tanks off Saturday and pick them up Sunday morning so you could dive both days if you want. So, yeah, so what like Pete kind of almost mentioned is we're really hoping dive clubs like your own and other shops and things will organize your own fun dives up there and take a bunch of people up there and start crushing urchin. There's a QR code on the bottom of that flyer where you're supposed to report what you do. So Reef Check is tracking our activity. Part of that is how many hours did we spend in the water doing this, so they can track how much effort it takes to produce the results that we're giving. Right? It's important that we do report what we're doing because it's a huge part of the tracking mechanism, and it's what gives us the credibility or the credit for the results. Right? So if nobody reports that they did anything and the kelp just shows up, they say, "See, it would have happened anyway." Right? So it is important, and it is important to report your activity accurately. And it's pretty easy. It just asks you what area of the cove do you think you were in, how long were you in the water, how many do you think you killed. You don't have to count each one. I estimate how many I was killing in a minute and just multiply it by my minutes in the water. So any questions? Oh, yeah. So we'll do questions. She had her hand up for a second. So we do our events the last Saturday of the month, April through September. So April, May, June, July, August, September. And the reason we do this, so it's open all year, every day, 365. It's just those are the weekends when we can reasonably predict weather that we could say, hey, come up and join us up there, and we'll probably be able to get in the water. Oh, there you go.
Could you please repeat the question? We can't hear on Zoom.
She asked when we were doing our events. I answered the last Saturday of the month, April through September, and then Christina said that she's put the April event on the Aquatutus calendar. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
No, it's specifically Casper, and it's a temporary regulation, and it will expire, and there will not be an extension. It's Casper Cove until April 1st of 2029, and then it'll expire. There's a question on Zoom.
Yeah, was it Bear Bill Sterling that you were thinking of? She had a German accent, black hair.
Yep.
I know she was very active in that.
Is there any plan to try in Casper Grove to actually reintroduce the stars after you get along?
Yeah. So the question is there any plan to reintroduce sun stars in Casper Cove? That was specifically the question. I'll say probably not specifically in Casper Cove. There are projects right now that are going through the process of actually growing sun stars in captivity. But I will tell you that California has a very bad history of outplanting. That was how the abalone withering syndrome happened in the late 90s. They had a tank in Ventura where they were raising abalone from New Zealand and abalone from here for outplanting, but they didn't have the facilities to segregate the water, so they pumped water out into the New Zealand tank, into the red abalone tank, out into the harbor, and so there was a virus that was spread from the abalone in the New Zealand tank to the American tank, but it didn't do anything until they released them out into the ocean in the warmer water. And that was what caused the withering syndrome that killed all the abalone in Southern California. So the department really has a bad taste in their mouth for outplanting. That said, Humboldt State is doing some research. One of our participants, Colby, is doing a lot of the work with that. There's a lot of work being done to raise sun stars in captivity, and they are looking to outplant them at some point. So I hope they do, but they're doing it in Washington State also, but there are programs here in California. Right. Yeah. So the Moss Landing Lab is working with Humboldt State also. They're working together.
George, could you say a little more about why there would be no extension if it's successful?
We're talking
Why would they?
on Zoom. Go ahead on Zoom.
Yes. Could you talk a little more to why, if the project is successful and if it's still needed, why would they not consider extending it?
Really
And
explain that in detail before you came on and joined the meeting.
okay, I'll look it up then.
So
And the other,
I'll answer it again. It's okay. It's a temporary program. It was always designed to be temporary. There were questions that we wanted to ask, which, like, could recreational divers make a difference? How many recreational divers would participate? They can't require us to report our activity. So one of the questions is, would recreational divers voluntarily report their diving activity and culling activity? And so if we're doing that, then the next time we propose a project, then they think, okay, well, they do report their dive activity voluntarily, so it helps. So there were a lot of questions that wanted to be answered, and we've answered all the questions. The next question is, what happens when we stop? So it was never proposed as an adopt a reef program where, like, we're going to do this cove forever. It was we wanted to answer specific questions, and that's what we're doing.
so part of the investigation is to actually stop and see if things continue good or go back to problems.
Yes.
Okay. Second thing I just point out, we in addition to the club newsletter and so on, we also have a Facebook site, and you're welcome to post information about Casper Cove there.
I'll get my media rep on it. She's in the back row right there, looking inconspicuous.
Okay.
His question about, so there was a question about whether there's any documentation on the withering syndrome and the outplanting that caused it. It was all deleted. No. There was a document purge. It was all deleted from the state archives. Long time ago, there was a document purge. Yeah, they do it just so you have something to talk about.
I have a question.
Okay.
Um, when you've had the events up there, because I've been following them since the beginning, and they're usually just one day, and it's a bit of a haul to go up there, and especially not knowing what the weather's going to be
Mhm.
in reality when you get there. Could you have some like weekend ones so people could camp out and stay longer?
So we they are weekend events. I plan to have the compressor there Saturday. I just plan the Saturday. Sunday's up to you. If you want to dive Sunday as well, that's perfectly fine. And I would say probably 80% of the people that are diving camp up there and stay overnight. It's not everybody dives on Sunday. Sometimes people dive one dive on Sunday and then go home. Sometimes people play it by ear depending on how much they drink on Saturday. But they are weekend events and we are staying there all night. I just plan the Saturday. I just arranged for the compressor to be on the beach to refill your tanks on Saturday. But we do also tell you to please leave with full tanks because the more tanks we fill, the better. So you can get your tanks filled Saturday to dive Sunday before you come home.
Oh, that's nice.
So
So,
they're
and,
weekend
and
events.
and everyone still has to have a fishing license, right? To
That is
kill.
correct. You do need a fishing
Yeah.
license.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's a question behind you real quick. No? Okay. Hmm. Hmm.
We see that the effects of last
Hmm.
this all seems to work.
Yep.
You have a solution. Apply it.
So Tankers Reef was the same regulation we were under. It was a temporary. A lot of people got upset when they let it expire when they closed down the Tanker Reef project, but that program it always had a sunset date. That program, that reef, just like ours, there was always a date when that project was going to stop, and a lot of people got mad when it did stop because you're right, it did work. People were doing it, but it was never intended to be a we're gonna. It was never proposed as we're gonna do this here forever. It was proposed as a temporary project. Now you can propose new projects. There are criteria. It has to be part of a scientific study, so you have to have real scientists to sign on your permit and do this. You can do it, and I think Keith is getting a new permit for something else. For they're doing something else, so they are willing to do it. It's just there was a lot of miscommunication with the Tanker Reef project about why it was being stopped. And our project, it was under the same exact reg, but we were never allowed to start working because of COVID. So that was the reason they gave us an extension and not the Tankers Reef program. Mm-hmm. Well, so if you're looking for funding, that's a different type of program. Now you're talking about for compensation or something. Um, so mhm. Okay. So the question is how because our program and the program at Tankers Reef are both showing that this works, that it can be done, it can be sustainable. So is there a blueprint or a roadmap for how to do this in other areas? So the hesitation of doing it in too many areas is a dilution of effort. Part of the reason these things work is because everybody's going to one spot. So if, for instance, there were 5 different spots and all the dive effort was sent to 5 different spots, so I'm not going to speak for the department. I mean, they may do more. There's actually another program. There's another group doing culling in Sonoma County without a scientific. They're actually doing the collections like we used to do. So they're just doing their recreational limit collecting and pulling out. So that could be done anywhere, but south of San Francisco, the limit on purple urchin is only 35 individuals. The 40-gallon limit is north of San Francisco. So you could do a program north of San Francisco where we're pulling out like we used to do. It is logistically a nightmare, and it was getting dangerous. Part of the reason why I stopped doing it and refused to do it that way was because it was getting dangerous. We were having near misses. You know, we had a missing diver where the lady just decided she wanted to swim somewhere else and didn't tell her buddy. So we had to evacuate Casper Cove to look for a missing diver. And I almost had a heart attack. It was not a fun day. So it was getting dangerous. We had a guy who had an equipment malfunction, and he got the adrenaline was going. He got nervous. Instead of manually inflating his BC, he got out on a rock and took off all his gear, and it was not good. We had to send lifeguards. So it was getting dangerous. I don't think that the removals are sustainable. That was why I forced the department to go to crushing. It's really the safest, most effective way. As far as a roadmap or a blueprint for how to do this in other areas, so what you're saying and what we've discussed is absolutely true. We have shown that this can work. So you can, if you want to go to Fish and Game and apply for this permit, you can go and apply for a scientific collection permit for a new area. There are specific people that you would be directed to help the person who's in charge of kelp for Fish and Game. Tristan McHugh with the Nature Conservancy would be involved with designing the program. You would have to discuss who are you going to get, who is the scientist that's going to sign off on your permit. You have to have an actual biologist sign your scientific collection permit, say that they're going to be responsible for this project. So there are things you need to do, but we've done it. It's been done. It can be done again. And actually the department, when Tankers Reef was being allowed to expire, they said they were open to an adopt a reef program where you can say, we want to do this area, you know, in perpetuity. We want to be there. That's where we want to keep clear. And that's where we want to, they were open to it. There were just certain criteria that they needed fulfilled, and that permit never got submitted. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions? So the question is, can I talk about Watermen's Alliance and what are we doing? So Watermen's Alliance is, we're just divers. We're a group of divers. We're consumptive divers, mostly spear fishermen. Watermen's Alliance was formed during the MLPA process because they were having stakeholder working group and there were no consumptive divers at the table. There were no spear fishermen. There were no recreational divers. There was nobody representing us at the stakeholders working groups to decide what parts of the ocean were going to be closed for take. So each of the dive clubs in Southern California got together and just formed, the nonprofit was formed, and then a board of directors was formed. And it's basically just a group of divers from different dive clubs that are actively involved with the legislation and the process of Fish and Game coming up with regulations. And we keep each other apprised of what's going on. So for instance, this is my thing now, is the urchin thing. Before that, I was abalone. There's a guy in San Diego who's trying to keep the children's pool open because Eleanor Scripps left a beach to the city of San Diego when she passed away, she had a seawall built, and she left this beach to the city of San Diego. And she said, no matter how big the city gets or how overpopulated it gets, I always want a beach for the children to be able to experience the ocean. Well, SeaWorld started releasing their sea lions there after they rehabilitated them. And the sea lions said, man, this is great. There's a seawall, there's fish. This beach where waves don't even break on the beach. We're just going to stay here. And so now there's a lady who started another nonprofit, and her whole thing is trying to close a children's pool to people so that the seals can have it. And so, I mean, there's a little bit of truth to everybody's story. So, you know, I mean, so yeah, I know St. Cal. I've dealt with them a lot. I know a lot of their board members. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So in 2018, or maybe 17, there was a biologist with Fish and Wildlife who started a working group she called Kelper, Kelprr. I forget what it all stands for. But there were a lot of organizations that were involved with that. Noyo Science Center, Noyo Harbor Science Center, Noyo Marine Center, whatever it is, Waterman's Alliance Department. John Holcomb, the commercial diver, came up with his vacuum and started vacuuming the urchin up. Nature Conservancy, Reef Check, a bunch of the nonprofits that are to do with the ocean were involved in this work group to start out with. And Greater Farallones Marine Sanctuary, bunch of organizations were involved with this. And what we came up with was a sort of a guidebook for kelp restoration. And what we looked at was what sites are we going to focus on? The goal of the group was to try to find funding to protect 10 coves in Mendocino and Sonoma, 5 in Sonoma and 5 in Mendocino. And so we would use commercial divers and recreational divers to clear these 10 coves and basically create a seed bank so that when nature does something to the overall population of urchin, because there's no way we can clear 200 miles of coastline of urchin. But eventually nature will do something, either disease or rough water or something will take these urchin out. But if there's no kelp left to repopulate, there will be no kelp. So the plan was to get these 5 coves in each county cleared and keep those as a seed bank. So there was a process designed for how would we pick which coves we're going to work at, because what cove is good this year may not be good next year. The bull kelp only lasts for 2 years. So if the kelp doesn't reach the surface in 2 years, that seed is dead. That plant is dead, and it'll never repopulate itself. So part of the question is, has there been kelp there in the last year or two? You know, where has kelp been historically? So we looked for where the thickest kelp beds were historically, thinking that's probably where the most seeds are, most spores, where we'd have the most success. But also it's a matter of having an easily identifiable geographic structure. So Casper Cove is a very well-defined cove. There's a north point and a south point, right? So a lot of the other coves and a lot of the other areas we were talking about were just like that, just a cove where you could really easily tell the two geographical points of it. And so part of our program, part of what we did was we proved that we could remove the urchin from an area and with minimal effort keep the urchin out of that area. And if we did that, the kelp would regrow. We cleared with commercial divers, we cleared an area, a 10-acre area in Noyo Harbor. It was 10 square acres. Noyo Harbor was declared an urchin barren. The entire cove outside of the harbor was an urchin barren. And we went in with commercial divers and cleared exactly 10 acres using stationary transect lines. And within a year, there was exactly 10 acres of kelp, exactly where we cleared the urchin. So it was a very big surprise. It was very good news that it comes back so quickly, right? And so in the off season, so what happened at the end of the dive season in October and November, they ran a line and said, this is where we stopped. And when we came back in April, when the weather cleared up again, the urchin densities on both sides of the line were exactly the same. So the urchin had stayed exactly where they were. Our 10 acres was still clear. So part of the thing with recreational divers we're showing is that so we've been clearing this little tiny part of Casper Cove. We've only been diving it really 2 years with 6 events a year. So 12 times. And you saw the amount of kelp that's in that area at the end of the year now. That's with a minimal effort of recreational dive volunteers. Yeah. I mean, what we're missing is you. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. If all the clubs would get together and go up and dive either for a day or a weekend, and so I was talking to some of the volunteers for the Tankers Reef project, and they were unaware that we have a compressor up there on the weekends when we do the events. They were like, well, it's so far away. We don't want to just go up for the day. We'd rather go up for the weekend. We're like, yeah, that's the whole point. That's why we have the compressor there. So so you can get your tanks filled and keep diving. So this year it'll be a little different. Sonoma County sheriffs can't help us out this year. Mendo Fire is still going to help us out. So we will have a compressor on the beach. If they're called out on a fire or something, we're going to use ledges. But like I said, their compressor's off site. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to take your empty tanks and bring them up there and get filled and bring them back to you. But we will have tank fills on the last Saturday of each month from April through September. And you will be able to, if you go up there, I would suggest calling ledges ahead of time and arranging for tank fills. If you want to dive both days, say I'd like to dive Saturday and drop my tanks off at whatever time. I'd like to pick them up Sunday morning so I can dive Sunday too. I'd suggest arranging that ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So the question is transplanting kelp or manual insertion of kelp spores or seedlings or plants. So there are things being done with that. There's a project in Albion where they're germinating spores and putting them in these green bricks that are like a soft brick that they can put the spore there. It's inundated with the spores, and they put that in they're just throwing those off the boat in Albion, and they're growing kelp like that. There's areas in other parts of the world that are calmer where what they do is they raise string beds a foot or two off the ground, and they run string lines and they put spores in the string. The string is riddled with spores, and then the kelp grows from that. But our water's much rougher. Our water wouldn't allow that. That would be torn out in a matter of time. So there are things that are being tested and considered. One of the tests they're doing in Casper Cove, just outside of our dive area, is they're using crab traps. So they're putting a bunch of kelp in a crab trap and then stick it out there and then pull it up, and it's full of urchin. So they're trying to see what's the feasibility of that, right? Like how fast do they fill the basket so we can pull it? Yeah, they're catching urchin in crab trap. So they're doing that in a few places. There's a bunch of different studies going on. And I just want to say, like, you guys have been there since the beginning. I remember Aquatudis was at our very first dive on Mother's Day of 2018. Your dive club was there in force. And everything that you hear about, all the money coming from the federal government, the state, all the money, all the projects you hear about kelp restoration now is because of what we've done, what you have done. We have forced them to do something about the kelp, to look for solutions rather than just let it happen. Thank you. Okay.
Well, that was really interesting. I learned a lot of things that I hadn't heard of before. So could we give another round of applause, please, for our presenters? Okay, we'll move on to the business part of the meeting. Every month we post the general meeting minutes on the website. If you go on the website, there's a menu on the top called Communications, and under that there's News. And if you scroll down for a while, you see General Meeting and the minutes on there. So are there any corrections or additions to the posted February general meeting minutes? Okay, then the minutes are approved as written. Guests, are there any new guests here today? Can someone help me here? I don't normally attend. I haven't been in the meeting for a while, but raise your hand, introduce yourself. Okay, I guess not. Thank you. No, Campy is not new. Hello, Steve. Good to see you. Let's see. All right, so let's move on to the director reports. Arnie?
Oliver, I need to give my report.
Yes, go ahead. You want me to give you a report?
No, I need to give my report, Oliver.
Go ahead, Helga, please.
Okay, I'm treasurer in case anybody doesn't recognize me. Classes has $3,797.21. That hasn't changed in a number of months. Dennis, if you have any bills for me, you know how to contact me. The general fund has $3,497.44 for a total of $7,284.65. If there are any club bills, please contact me. And if you want specific details, come to the board meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Helga.
You're welcome.
Arnie, do you have anything to say?
Actually, you made my report for me, Oliver. Thank you. The minutes of both the last general meeting and the Board of Directors meeting are posted on the website.
Thanks, Arnie. Dennis, training.
Did get one email requesting a rescue diver. Unfortunately, I don't like to do rescue diver with less than about 6 for the camaraderie and all the setup and everything that's involved. So hopefully we'll get some more input on that and we can get a schedule. Outside of that, I've got no other input on what people would like to see. But I would, as always, like to encourage people to come on the club dive, find a seasoned diver in the club and say, I'd like to go for a dive and work on my navigation, my buoyancy, my find the little critters. There are some of our divers who just love to take people and go, ooh, look at that little nudibranch. Dave Shervin, I think everybody knows who I was alluding to. But anyway, there are some great divers, seasoned divers in the club that'll be more than happy to take that newer diver or the diver that's new to our area. We have more marine life on the bottom than anywhere in the world. Take my word for it. You just have to take your time and look. And then go research and say, what did I see today? Ooh, yeah, something. Yep. A nudibranch, a capizone, a lingcod. Okay, it was just phenomenal. So anyway, please come diving, and it'll be addressed later. But next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, the 15th, is the snorkel from Maccabee up to San Carlos, which is an interesting opportunity to go snorkeling, practice your snorkeling, do a little bit of diving. One thing to remember, if you're going to do that, don't wear as much lead as you would for scuba diving. Take 4 or 6 pounds off of your weight package. Otherwise, you could have a little trouble because you won't have a buoyancy control device, most likely.
Okay. Are you going to attend to advise people, Dennis?
The question is Dennis going to attend the dive? Actually, Dennis plans on attending the dive. Is Oliver going to attend the dive?
See.
Could you be less definite?
I don't have to advise them on buoyancy.
Okay, that's all I have. Anybody have any questions, any input, any? I can't answer that. That's when we get to club activities, bring that question. The question was, is there'll be another dive in April other than the one up north? So
Comment directly on that. If you'd like there to be another dive in April, then you can send an email to the board of directors, board@aquatutus.org, and we will show you how to create a dive in April. No, I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious. Let's have a conversation, okay? Just okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Please.
Oliver, we can't hear what they're saying. Can you repeat the
Yes.
question?
The comment was that the Mendocino location is about the same temperature as the local locations as far as cold water goes, and then it's a protected location, and it's really a reasonable place to get reaccommodated to cold water diving, or perhaps to go diving in where one doesn't want a challenging location. Is that right? Am I? Yes. Yeah. She's nodding yes.
Most of the people that attend club dives are in the room. So I guess popular vote, would people like moving the point of contact like club dive to the opening weekend of the event?
Works well.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Okay. 2 dives in April.
That's good. No, that's. We can easily support multiple dives in a month as a club. They're happening. It's just that we're not quite as good at communicating them as we need to be. That's why I was suggesting, I wasn't trying to be flippant, but if you do contact the board, we can tell you how to communicate those things. Yes, Alan.
Maybe for another forum, but maybe some demonstration work on one of these meetings on what's in our portal, how easy it is to access, get the resources. People maybe see and make that connection around, oh, that's cool. Now I'll have to learn that.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. That's a good idea. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Alan's commenting that there's a website there with lots of communications opportunities that I just referred to and told you to use, but you might not know how to use it. So he's suggesting that we show people how to use it and what the opportunities are there for communicating. Okay. I wanted to, amplify on what Dennis was saying as far as we don't have classes all of the time, but that the experienced divers are very willing to help people out in the club dives and suggest that, of course, you can just show up in the club dive and communicate. How do you do that? You show up with a group of people there and start talking, right, about what you'd like to do. But another way is to talk to people at the meeting here, or again, just send an email to the board and we'll connect you with people and arrange things ahead of time. Because I know sometimes for perhaps a newer diver in the club or whatever, someone doesn't dive all the time, it could be a little bit intimidating to step into the group that's all talking right next to each other there. Just a thought. Okay. So let's see. We talked about training. Is Debbie on here? I don't see her. Okay. Good for her. All right. So we don't have a membership report from Debbie, and I'm not going to go look it up at this particular moment. But last thing I heard at the last board of directors meeting is that people are renewing their membership, right? At a certain point during the year, it's set up to disconnect people's membership automatically. You don't get to stay on forever if you don't pay. So we're encouraging people to actually, renew and press the button, right, and re-up. And great, the club will continue functioning that way. Entertainment, David.
Thanks, Oliver. So I'll make this quick. Last couple months, we had some pretty good talks from Reef Check and today from the folks involved with Casper Cove. So these are all impact projects that you can get involved in directly. So hopefully you're charged up and looking to do something. And so we're going to change the pace a little bit. And next month, we're going to have Randall Spangler from Spangler Scuba. So he's done a bunch of dives and all over Monterey. He's going to be teaching us about how to read oceanic models and looking at how to predict and forecast dive conditions so we don't get into trouble, which will be, make sure you have a good day on the beach. And so I think that would be a great time for the more experienced members of the club to participate during the Q&A and maybe even provide some of their own input about oceanic models and things like that, how it is that you're looking at whether or not it's going to be a good day to go diving or, maybe just go to Gianni's or stay home and have a beer. And in May, that's going to be I don't know if it's approved by the board yet, but members night. So our last members night was a while ago. So we're looking at folks to share photos or videos of any of your recent dives. And, this is kind of a opportunity for you to share all the interesting things that you've been seeing. So if you have any materials that you'd like to do for that, please get in touch with our own Mr. Dave Shervin, and we'll get you set up for our May members night. So that's about it for the slate so far. If there's anything that you want to see for June, please get in touch with me. Thanks.
David, when we've got Randall is a great resource for species identification locally, especially invertebrates and things like that. So if we can persuade him as part or at the end of his talk, if he can give us a little bit on species, he's a fountain of knowledge.
Great idea. Maybe we'll have them come back in June for a second session.
Even that. Thank you.
Yeah, just mostly because of time constraints. So yeah, that's a great idea, Neil. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I've read recently some of Randall's dive reports, and he certainly analyzes a lot more things than I can as far as analyzing what we do when we go diving. So I'd recommend everyone listen to that one. Okay, newsletter website, Oliver. The March tutor was published and has been sent out. I see a lot of you at least open it. I don't know if you read it, but at least you open it. So that's really good. I want to thank everyone for sending in the general interest news items and encourage everyone else out there, if you see something that's diving related you think that the community might be interested in, just email it to me. Either my local email address or newsletter@aquatutus.org probably works, right? And I'll take the list of them and add them in there. Or if you just want to make any comments, great, terrible, do this, do that, please. Also, let's see, I take care of the website here. There are a number of things we want to fix in the website. We're going to have a group of people getting together and talk about them. If you have any particular pet peeves or problems or broken links or I can't find this, send them in an email to us again, myself, newsletter, board@aquatutus.org, and we'll see about addressing those.
Hey, Oliver,
Yes.
this is Jane. Hey, I don't know if the group saw a posting just a few days ago, maybe it was over the weekend, of some divers that actually videoed a pair of soup fin sharks swimming by at I think it was at Maccabee in shallowish water. It's great. It's on one of the uh, Bay Area dive reports or one of those. And I was just amazing that they must have had a GoPro or something turned on. And
Would you mind going to take a look, Jane, and send me a link?
oh, okay. I'll see if I'm not sure how to do the link, but I'll try to figure it out.
Or give me some textual description once you find it of where I might find it. But
Yeah, I'll send it. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was clear as a bell.
You could
Yeah.
you could also post that direct to the Facebook page.
Just send it over to our club Facebook.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
post it there. Post the link to it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Be glad to. Pretty exciting.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments like, well, gee, no one's seen those in quite some time. And they said, well, the conditions have been so great that maybe we're starting to see things that are always there. Um, that was, yeah. And they were fast. They were like two of them.
What location did you mention that you were talking to?
I think it was at Maccabee. I'll have to double check.
Oh, right. Nice.
Yeah, and they like kelp apparently.
Okay.
So I'll check it out.
Any other questions or comments on newsletter website? Okay. Derek takes care of communications for us, emailing and keeping track of the calendar and so on. I don't see him on there, and I think I recall him saying he wasn't going to make this meeting. Does anyone have any comments or concerns? We try to be very cognizant and careful about overloading people with email. So if you're annoyed, please tell us. We're probably not annoying you because you try not to send too many out. But if you want more, you could always tell us that too. All right. Is there any old business that we need to take care of this meeting that anyone can recall? Right. Any new business to bring up at this meeting? All right. How about upcoming activities? So our president isn't here, and he didn't write a beautifully summarized activity lists for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the website and see what the event calendar says, which hopefully has the activities on it. If it doesn't, we're doing something wrong and we need to put them on there. We did something wrong. Okay. All right. Let's see. We can see the general membership meeting right here. Someone called Oliver was going to try and run a dive on Thursday, but decided to cancel it at the last moment. So that didn't occur. But you see that little ad hoc DPV dive up there? That's a note that some individual club member put a dive on the calendar, and all of you can do that. and we can show you how. Let's see. So there's the club dive over there, snorkel from Maccabee to San Carlos. So you can find this by going into the website and clicking on event calendar, and you'll see it. And then if you click on the event right there, you'll get over to the event, and you can register for the event. Event organizers really appreciate it when you register for the event, because then if something changes, they can tell you, and they don't get people telling them why weren't you there or so on. That's very helpful. So think about doing that. Yes. Good point, Dennis. Thank you for saying that. Yes, there are people who show up and only scuba dive during that day, right? They show up and say hello to everyone and find someone else to scuba dive with, because there's probably usually more than one. Or a lot of other people will do the snorkel as the first dive and then a scuba dive as the second dive. So Jim might actually kind of organize something like that. He might go out along the pipeline to see the Matridia. I've seen him mentioning. So, you know, if you're thinking, oh, I just don't want to snorkel, well, there's scuba diving events available too. Let's see, there's the board of directors meeting. All members are welcome to attend the board of directors meeting. You can give us direct feedback there. And, you know, if you're interested in getting involved with the club and scheduling dives or things like that, that's a good place to do it. That's only via Zoom. That's right. So you don't have to show up in person. You'll see that if you click on there. The Zoom link's in there. Next month. There we go. And now we can see how we're going to say yes, we're going to come, or no, we're not going to come. Next month. Okay, he says that's it. So there's our general membership, board of directors meeting, Urchin Culling dive in Mendocino. That looks like an ad hoc dive since it's purple. There she is right back there. Yes, please.
Alrighty. So, oh gosh, wow. Oh man. I put the dive here, but I show up on Friday. I get a campsite. If I know ahead of time how many people are coming, I can get a campsite that's big enough for people. There's usually a couple of other divers that come from other places that join me also. So if you're interested in diving either or camping Friday night or Saturday night, let me know so I can get a site ahead of time. There are really nice showers, bathrooms, nice facilities. It's right across the street from the dive site. So you just wake up in the morning, walk over and have your breakfast. And it's a lovely experience. But do let me know if you would like to camp so I know that to get campsites. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is on Saturday, for sure. You can get your tanks refilled to dive on Sunday. Yeah, it's a deal. That's oh. Yeah, to get a fishing license, super easy. I can maybe figure out a way to attach a link. I get one for just the whole year. I think it's like $40 for the year, or maybe $15 per, or maybe a little more than that. But it's really easy. And then you can just print it out or just have it on your phone. Yeah. Good point.
It's fun to go culling urchins, especially if you can smash them on the bottom. And it's a great group of people there too. Next month, let's just see what it says, Dave. The month after that, please. Okay, that's it. So we will have dives in May, and there will be things occurring, but we haven't put them on the calendar yet. Is there? There we go. So, does anyone want to announce any activities or dives that aren't on the calendar yet, like this month or next week or something like that? Okay. Yeah. Send me an email and then we'll take care of it. Thank you. Or Derek. Derek is really the person to do it. If you would. Thank you. Okay. Right. Yes. All right. Past dive reports. Who's been diving? And we would like you to talk in a microphone. It's nice, and we need to let the Zoom people participate too. Appreciate it.
So in early September, every 2 years I go to the Philippines and I do some volunteer work there, do some surgery, and it's pretty neat. And then this year was the first time that afterwards, a group of us went to Dumaguete and did some diving at Apo Island at the House Reef in Dumaguete, and it was myself, my wife, and my 17-year-old came, and then 3 people got certified there, and there were 2 other people that had, I think it was their second or third dive, and it was fantastic. We didn't stay at your favorite resort because it was full, unfortunately, but we stayed at Atmosphere, and the people were nice, and the reefs were super, super healthy, and there was lots of diversity in the marine life, and there was lots of variety in terms of challenging. Most of our dives were a little less challenging because there were a lot of new people, but we saw lots of nudibranchs and electric clam. I mean, just a huge variety of stuff. It was really wonderful. Yeah. And the food was great, and it was relatively I wouldn't say inexpensive, but like for what you're getting, pretty affordable. We did have one group get swept out into the blue water in a current. Their guide didn't make the same decisions our guide did, but we did manage to find them again. So maybe one of the things that we can do on a dive is practice SMB, huh? At Apo. Yeah. Washington.
So,
Yeah.
Practice SMB, deployal,
Yeah.
retrieval, and even how to wind
Set it up.
the spool so it doesn't go flying off when you jump in the water.
Yeah, I would be very interested in that.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Who else has been diving? I know there's some other.
I'm Dan. Mark Judson and I went with 3 other Marin Scuba Club members on the Beach Hopper 2 on the 23rd. It was my first experience, and there was a dire forecast. I was expecting like 8-foot swells with 5 feet of visibility, but it was, we went out to a reef called Mr. Ed, and it was actually pretty good. It was, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. I think we were like half a mile off of Maccabee. And it is sort of an isolated reef amongst sand. And we had about 15 feet to begin with. There are 10 people on board. So with 10 divers swimming 45 minutes around this one reef that's probably 2 or 3 times the size of this room, the visibility dropped to about 5 feet at the end. But it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. And then we went to Hopkins Marine, off of Hopkins Marine. So 2 places where you wouldn't have access from shore. Mr. Ed was interesting because there were a lot of big fish there. And Mary Jo, the captain, said, "Oh yeah, they see a lot of wolf eels." So I was hanging around at the bottom, looking under the bottom of the reef, but did not see any wolf eels. But there was a lot of metridium and fish there. So I enjoyed myself.
How did you like Beach Hopper?
Beach Hopper was good. There were 10 divers. We were the only 2. Mark and I had the only 2 wetsuits on board. And there was probably $40,000 worth of photographic equipment on board. I kid you not.
5 feet.
Well, yeah. And half the people seemed like they were regulars, like they were on a first name basis. So I thought it was a good, for $125, 2 2 tanks. I thought it was well worth it and could imagine, you know, once the conditions get better, it could be probably amazing. I asked her how often she went into Carmel Bay. She said like a handful of times a year. Not anymore. So, but we'll do it again.
Yeah, I have the same impression. She's a good captain, and unfortunately, it's not practical for her to get down to Carmel Bay a lot now, but it is a good boat dive. Okay, who else has been diving?
Me in Hawaii,
Please go ahead, Arnie.
it's a friend of mine and I just went on a dive about 3 Sundays ago. We dove a wreck and we dove a reef and we had a great time.
What was the water temperature, Arnie?
You know, I didn't look all that close, but something like around 79. What we call cold.
Which wreck, Arnie?
The Sea Tiger.
Thank you. Who else has been diving? Yes, thank you.
Hi, this is Lindsay. For those of you not on my Facebook, I was in Cozumel for my February break from school. So it was, I don't know, mid-ish February. I went with 6 other people, or I was the 6th, from VDM in Livermore. So 4 old timers, me and one of their kids. We had a great time. Some of them had been there before. We stayed at the Occidental, which isn't the club's preferred hotel, but it is much closer to the dive sites, which I appreciated for someone who gets sick on boats. The benefit of that being that your surface interval, you drive back to the place, switch out tanks, and then go back. So you're not sitting there bobbing around. The resort and the dive shop were very busy. Every boat was full every day. So it was a little bit tricky if you hadn't already scheduled afternoon dives to get afternoon dives. So if you go, just do all that like day one. The resort was all inclusive, so food was good, but again, you could be staying anywhere in the world because we didn't really leave the property. 80-degree water also, so that was amazing. Saw typical creatures. It was the migration season for the eagle rays. So we saw those on almost every day, which I loved, especially because I bought a little piece of art on night 1 before I'd even gotten in the water. So I felt like I predicted it a little bit. But yeah, it was really cool to be in the water that many times. We did 17 dives, including a night dive, and spent a total of, I calculated, a little over 15 hours underwater.
Eight. Yep. Did you say there were 4 old-timer BDMers there?
Yes.
Do you recall what their names are? I used to belong to the club.
Oh, yeah. So Andy Ip, Steve, don't know his last name. Paul, don't know his last name. And David Garcia in the Sand Cruz town. So you might know it. Yeah. And then Dave's son.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Okay, who's next? Yep. Yeah.
When we talked about it?
Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna open myself up here, but anyway. So Oliver and I and Rob Kugel, who's a member of the club and an old Aquatutus diver, a friend of mine, went on a midweek dive on a Wednesday a couple weeks back. And we just went to the conditions were not looking great, but we went anyway, and it wasn't too bad. The entry and exit was not bad. So we went to St. Carlos Beach. And we said, oh, okay, well, the first dive, we'll go out to the Metridian fields. So we walked across the beach, we got in the water, we swam out, we dropped down, we went east to try and find the pipe and could not find the pipe. could not find the pipe. So after searching for a while, we just decided, well, screw it. So so we went across Middle Reef, and it was still nice. I mean, there was lots of life in there. Ended up, right at the wall, and walked out to our cars, which were nearby. And then the second dive was on the wall, which was always nice. And there was just tons of these little yellow nudibranchs and fish and just tons of life. And so it was a fun day. But when I went up to, I talked to one of the locals who's also there. And Bill Briscoe was there. I was a club member, and his girlfriend Sharon Chu went, and they saw some octopus. So there was abalone. There was all sorts of. There's so much life on that wall. I just love that wall. But what we heard from the locals was that with the storms that have come in, there's all this sand that's come in, and the sand has covered the pipe. So if you want to go out to close to shore, so if you want to go to the Metridian fields, you really have to swim out quite a bit to go find the pipe now. So that's my lesson.
Yep, I was there with them, and I can usually find it. We didn't see it. We must have swum over it twice. But in any case. Okay, who else has been diving? How about the club dive? Who was in the club dive? Lovers 3 club dive. Ellen.
Yep, I do.
So long ago, I almost forgot. Actually, I talked about this in the last meeting, but that goes. I did, but we'll do the repeat. You weren't paying attention. Yeah, because it was right. It was right before the last meeting. Yeah, Lovers 3. Great dive day. Great visibility. We're bragging it was. I don't know. It's like the fish stories. Was that 70 feet of visibility? No, it was clean. It was an honest 40 to 50 in some spots. So it was almost like diving in the aquarium. It was just amazing. Went out from Lovers 3, out past the edge of the reef around the point toward 2. Great wildlife, a lot of rockfish, a lot of nudibranchs, a lot of, what are those big squishy snaily things, I guess, sea hares? What else? That was about it. And then the second one, oh, yeah, those are amazing. Yeah, and then all of the small sea life, all the vegetation life on those rocks was just amazing. You get in close, get some lights on those, and there's just like this whole rainbow of colors, this little microcosm growing on those rocks. Then the second dive, we went from Lovers 2 all the way around the point to 3. Great navigation, great dive, and thank you, Oliver, for leading that one. That was educational for those who hadn't been around the points. Is just go see how that works. So that's it.
Didn't notice any pipes there, Dennis. But I have to say, for the people who are on the dive, that the problem on any dive like that, right, is you do the compass course, but when do you take the turn to go back into shore? It's all kind of a guess. And there's a group of 5 of us swimming along, and I'm thinking, well, it's getting about time. And I saw 2 people peeling off in the shore direction. I says, okay, seems reasonable to me. Hit it perfectly. I mean, we came in right at the stairs when we came. It feels so good. You feel like a pro when you do that, right? Pure luck. Okay, anyone else who's been diving? Yeah, okay. That sounds good. I'll take that better than the unlucky diver award, right? I've gotten a bunch of those. Okay, so while I've heard a lot of great dive descriptions, and I'm supposed to ask about a bone award here, since everyone has lots of fun about that. I haven't heard anything particularly bone-worthy, but I'll ask people, have there been any goofs or mistakes or whatever that occurred during the dives that someone would like to relate, either the the mistakee or the person observing.
You're looking in my direction.
You're just smiling at me. You haven't.
I brought one up last time around the last dive, so I'm not going to bring it up again.
Okay, once is enough. All right. Any others? I guess not. Okay. And then I guess we're celebrating good buddy awards too for someone who does a particularly good turn for the other people. So we don't have to bring up last month's, but are there any new good buddy awards, people who did something to help out another diver? Yes, please, David.
So not directly related to a dive, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Patty and Dennis for opening up their house to. A little backstory here. Alan S., Derek, and I, we swim with some open water swimmers in the bay, and a lot of times they express interest in diving. They're like, "Oh, you dive? I used to dive in Hawaii, or I used to dive, somewhere else, and never really dove here. What's it like?" And so, a lot of times we get folks that are interested in that, but taking that plunge though, I think is always a little difficult. There's, they start thinking about the gear and everything else. So Patty and Dennis opened up their house and let a couple of buddies that swim, but so they're familiar with the cold water, but they just don't quite have the gear, so that they can get geared up for the snorkeling event next weekend, which is a great intro to get them into that. And so, they were incredibly grateful, and they said that they're really looking forward to going on this trip, and they hope to see Dennis and Patty there on the 15th. And also, just want to give a thanks in advance for all the club members that are going to be helping these folks with, their first cold water snorkeling events, and imparting their experience to them. And hopefully this means that in the future too, we'll have more dive club members try open water swimming. So I think it works both ways. Thanks.
All right, I think that's unanimous then, that Dennis and Patty get the Good Buddy Award for attracting a few people towards diving, as if Dennis hasn't done that before, probably most of his life, but thanks, guys. All right, let's see. Is there any other points to bring up?
Yeah, relating to the dive report from the Philippines, another place we dived there, I haven't been recently, but the place we dived there is Puerto Galera, as well as Dumaguete, and there's also an island there that we go to. It's Verde Island, and two Russian divers were lost there. Group got swept away in a current, and I think one of them died. One of them was not found, and the other one was recovered, but he expired. He was in hospital, and then he didn't survive. So the comment about learning how to deploy DSMBs is a good warning there. Definitely learn to do that. Yeah, that's DSMB is doing it underwater. Delayed surface marker buoy.
Thank you, Neil. Good comment. I think back at the Red Sea also, when we were out with strong currents and a number of divers who weren't practiced in using SMBs. And it was scary. So it's much easier if you've had someone show you and practiced a bit. You don't want to show up in a dive trip in a place full of current and expect you're going to be able to use your SMB. All right. Anything else? Any other comments? Right. Thanks, folks from Zoom. Great to see you. Sorry.
How many people are present?
He wants us to count. Thank you for reminding me. 17, Dennis says.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Great. I'll adjourn the meeting. Great to see everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
I was thinking about making the snide comment, but it wouldn't have come off correctly in a large group or over Zoom, right? About don't ever go diving along the wall at San Carlos with two reef check people. Unless you want to, I don't know, and I need some comment then, right? Like, freeze your ass off or, get so bored you want to fall asleep or something like that. Oh, man, I'm hurt. You got to go slow so you can see this stuff. I know.